Life always leaves signs for those who are willing to see them. It's not an exaggeration to say that the direction of our journey is shaped not only by circumstances, but by the way we choose to think about them. Some people believe they were born for very little, as if their fate was carved in stone before they even took their first step. Others discover that destiny is malleable, like clay in steady hands. The difference between these two kinds of people is not extraordinary talent or rare opportunities. It's the vision they cultivate about themselves and about life. Since ancient times, Eastern masters have repeated the same lesson. The external world is nothing but a reflection of the internal world. This is not about magic. It's about perception. Those who see themselves as small will inevitably act small. Those who recognize their worth radiate that worth in every gesture, every word, every decision. That is why real change doesn't begin when the world shifts, but when we shift the way we look at ourselves. If you've ever felt stuck in a routine that doesn't inspire you, if you've noticed time slipping away while your life feels stagnant, know that this isn't a burden unique to you. Millions face the same dilemma. The reason some break free while others stay trapped for years or even for life comes down to one decision: the decision to flip the switch. And that switch is not external, it lives within. Napoleon Hill once said, "Whatever you think about, you become." This phrase is repeated so often that many no longer feel its weight. But if you pause for a moment and truly observe your current life, you'll see that it mirrors the dominant thoughts you've carried. If your mind has been filled with fear, doubt, and hesitation, your life has inevitably taken the shape of fear, doubt, and hesitation. But if you feed your mind with courage, clarity, and discipline, little by little, your life will begin to respond differently. To illustrate this in a practical way, let me share a story. It's not just a fable, but a metaphor that carries a timeless truth. At a busy train station, filled with the noise of tracks and the rush of crowds, there lived a beggar. His world revolved around stretching out his hand day after day, hoping for coins to keep him alive. Until one day, among the countless rushing faces, he crossed paths with a businessman. Unlike the others, this man carried a calm confidence that made him stand out. The beggar approached, expecting a generous donation. But instead of coins, he received an unexpected question. "Do you always just take? Have you ever tried giving something to someone?" The impact of that question was enormous. At first it felt cruel, but soon he realized there was truth in it. He had never considered offering anything of his own. That night and the next, the question echoed inside him. Then one day he noticed wildflowers growing near the train tracks. He picked some and decided to give them away with every coin he received. What seemed small and insignificant changed everything. People no longer stopped only to drop a coin. They paused to receive a flower. For the first time, the beggar felt he wasn't just taking, he was giving. This simple act carried a powerful lesson. Life changes the moment we stop waiting and start offering. It doesn't matter if what you give seems small. A flower, a kind word, a smile, a piece of knowledge. What matters is the act of offering something meaningful. Perhaps you're wondering, but what do I have to give? That's the very question that begins true transformation. The beggar had no riches, no contacts, no possessions. Yet he discovered that even a small gesture could become a seed for change. In the same way, each of us already holds something that can be cultivated and shared. When you understand this, you realize that stagnation is not the result of lacking opportunities on the outside, but of failing to recognize what already exists inside. It's like having a seed in your hand and never planting it, then complaining that no trees grow. Eastern philosophy always reminds us that the greatest revolutions begin quietly, within the mind. A samurai did not become strong only through physical training, but through mental discipline, seeing meaning in every detail. A monk did not reach serenity by escaping the world, but by transforming thoughts into deliberate actions. Once you grasp this, you see that your life doesn't need to be dictated by luck or by other people's decisions. The true power of change lies in the posture you choose to adopt in every situation. You don't have to wait for the world to shift, because the transformation starts the moment you shift how you see yourself. That's the starting point of our journey here. If you're still watching, it's because something inside you is looking for more than quick motivational quotes or shallow advice. You're searching for clarity, discipline, and purpose. And that's exactly what we'll explore together. So before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Everything we share here is designed not just to inspire you for a moment, but to plant seeds that grow into long-term transformation. Life doesn't change with temporary motivation. It changes with applied knowledge, with practical philosophy, with conscious decisions repeated daily. And that's what I want to walk with you through, like a friend by your side, showing you that there are clear steps to escape stagnation and move toward a life filled with meaning. The first step is this: recognize that you always have something to give. Even in your most difficult moments, you still carry a seed of value within you. And when you stop standing as a beggar and start acting as someone who offers, your life will begin to change alongside your posture. True transformation never comes without resistance. The beggar in our story learned this during his first days of change. He quickly realized that it wasn't enough to simply hand out flowers. He had to face an enemy far tougher than indifference from strangers: his own mind. The mind acts like a guardian of old beliefs. It constantly whispers, "It won't work. You're not capable. Things will always be the same." That voice is what keeps most people stuck. Not because the world denies them opportunities, but because they believe the lies they tell themselves. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said that no one is a slave to the outside world, only to their own beliefs. And that's the root of our greatest conflict. The real issue is not the lack of money or time or recognition. It's the way we interpret what happens to us. The same obstacle can look like a wall or like a step. The difference lies only in perception. When we talk about personal growth, most people hope for a path free of obstacles. But life has never worked that way. The samurai didn't train for the perfect duel under ideal conditions. He trained for the unexpected, for the storm, for the battle when nothing went in his favor. In the same way, growth doesn't happen when everything flows easily. It happens when we learn to endure and adapt to the unexpected. The beggar with the flowers discovered this. At first, some people mocked him. Others ignored the flowers, seeing them as useless. But he persisted, and with each genuine smile he received, even if small, he found the strength to keep going. That's an important truth. Change begins fragile, almost invisible. If you don't have the discipline to persist, you will never live long enough to see the fruits. In Japanese philosophy, there is the concept of Kaizen, continuous improvement, even if small. It's not about sudden revolutions, but about consistent steps. A simple habit repeated every day can completely reshape a life. And the reverse is also true. A negative thought fed daily can imprison someone for an entire lifetime. This is the heart of the conflict. Within us, two paths exist side by side. One leads to growth, demanding courage, patience, and discipline. The other leads to stagnation, which at first feels comfortable, but eventually becomes a disguised prison. And the choice between these paths is not made in grand moments, but in small ones. In the second you decide whether to wake up early or hit the snooze button. In the moment you choose between studying a bit more or scrolling aimlessly. In the moment you choose silence for clarity or drown in endless worry. Zen masters often say, life is built in the present moment. Every moment carries a choice. Accumulate good choices and your life takes one shape. Accumulate escapes and your life takes another. Many think philosophy belongs only in old books or intellectual debates, but practical philosophy is actually a map for everyday struggles. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control. Eastern wisdom reminds us that silence often transforms more than 1,000 words. Modern thinkers show us that discipline is not a prison, it's a form of freedom. The challenge is not knowing this. The challenge is living it. It's like someone who knows the path out of a maze but refuses to walk it. That's the daily conflict. Putting into practice what we already know. The beggar understood in theory that he could only receive if he first offered. But that understanding only became real when he acted, when he gave away his first flower. So ask yourself, how many times have you known exactly what to do but didn't act? How many times have you postponed decisions that could change your life, waiting for the right time, the right courage, or someone's permission? The inner conflict is born from the fear of seeing yourself differently. As long as you cling to the image of being small or incapable, the world will reflect that image back to you. But the moment you dare to see yourself as capable, even before results appear, the world begins to respond in a new way. Practical philosophy shows us that vision is the trigger, but repeated action is what cements the transformation. You can see yourself as disciplined, but if you don't act with discipline, the image fades. You can see yourself as a learner, but if you don't invest in learning, the image dissolves. Transformation only sticks when vision and action walk together. And here's where most people fail. Not because they lack dreams, but because they lack consistency. The world is filled with people who start projects with enthusiasm and abandon them halfway. Few persist long enough to see results. The beggar only became a merchant because he refused to quit in those first days, when all he had were awkward smiles and dismissive glances. The deepest conflict, then, is not outside. It's inside. It's the battle against the temptation to give up, against the voice that says, "Why bother?" against the pull of returning to old ways. Even if those ways were painful, at least they were familiar. The unknown always feels intimidating, even when it holds the promise of something better. This is where philosophy becomes practical. It gives us tools to face that inner voice. Stoicism teaches us to distinguish what is within our control from what is not. You don't control what others think of you, but you control what you choose to do. You don't control which opportunities appear, but you control your preparation. You don't control the time that has passed, but you control what you do with the next minute. That is the essence of the conflict, mastering yourself. The one who conquers themselves no longer fears the opinions of others or the uncertainty of life. The greatest victory is not over the world, but over your own limitations. The beggar who once stretched out his hand to survive now walked with steady steps and lifted shoulders. He hadn't inherited wealth. No one had gifted him a golden opportunity. What changed was his posture toward life. He discovered that dignity begins the moment you recognize that you always have something to offer. This was not a miracle. It was the product of awareness, discipline, and persistence. The final teaching of this story isn't about flowers. It isn't about coins. It's about identity. As long as he believed he was just a beggar, he was imprisoned by that belief. The very instant he saw himself as someone who could give something, no matter how small, he stopped being a beggar and became a merchant. That shift in identity is what transforms a life. Eastern wisdom tells us that the way we define ourselves shapes the boundaries of our reality. If you tell yourself, "I am weak," life will constantly confirm that belief. If you affirm, "I am disciplined," your daily actions will become training to validate it. This isn't about reciting hollow affirmations. It's about truly internalizing a new way of seeing yourself. When you shift your identity, your behavior changes. And when your behavior changes, the world reacts accordingly. This is the secret. You don't have to wait for recognition from others to transform. You don't need anyone's permission. You only need to decide who you want to be and then begin to act as that person. The beggar didn't wait until he had a proper stall or steady profits to call himself a merchant. He acted like a merchant the day he gave his first flower in exchange for a coin. Identity came before results, and that is the lesson most people miss. Results never come first. Identity does. Many wait for wealth before feeling prosperous, for success before seeing themselves as capable, for validation before believing they matter. That mindset is a trap. The order must be reversed. You assume the identity first and results naturally follow. The samurai lived this truth. They didn't wait for a victorious battle to call themselves warriors. They lived as warriors in their posture, in their breathing, in their every action. Victory or defeat was merely the reflection of an identity already carved into their being. Likewise, monks don't wait for enlightenment to begin living in serenity. They practice serenity until enlightenment becomes inevitable. Practical philosophy reminds us that destiny is shaped not by grand gestures, but by daily choices that align with the identity we've chosen. So the question is, who are you choosing to be today? A prisoner of circumstance or someone capable of creating meaning? This decision is quiet, almost invisible, but its consequences will echo across your entire life. Perhaps you wonder now, where do I start? The answer is simpler than most expect. Begin small. Take one symbolic action that represents your new identity. If you want to be disciplined, tidy your workspace before starting the day. If you want to be healthier, prepare your next meal with care. If you want to become a learner, open the book and read the first page. What transforms a life is not the size of the action, but the consistency of it. The beggar started with a flower. Just one flower was enough to begin rewriting his story. What could be your flower? Maybe it's an idea you've been afraid to share, a skill you've left dormant, or a word of encouragement you can offer to someone close. Maybe it's simply the decision to stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a creator. Life always answers the posture you bring to it. If you present yourself as a beggar, it will hand you scraps. If you show up as a creator, it will open opportunities. The distinction lies in how you see yourself. Transformation doesn't happen by waiting for the world's pity, but by waking up to the wealth you already hold inside. That's the invitation I want to leave you with. See yourself as someone who can always offer value. Don't wait until everything is perfect to give something. What you have now is already enough to begin. Discipline, clarity, and purpose are not things that appear overnight. They're built by reaffirming daily the identity you've chosen. Philosophy, when applied, makes it clear greatness isn't hidden in a distant future. It's born in the gesture you choose right now. Today's decisions, repeated consistently, shape tomorrow's reality. The beggar who gave away a flower never imagined he'd have a business 6 months later, but his small, repeated gestures built that outcome. Look at your life through this lens, and you'll see there is no fixed destiny. There is only the reflection of your daily choices and your self-image. Believe you're small and you'll live small. See yourself as capable, and your actions will align with strength. The world will eventually confirm it. Now is the time for decision. You can keep waiting for someone to change your life, or you can begin now by changing how you see yourself. The Beggar of the Flowers isn't just a story about another man. It's a mirror. It's about you. So decide today the identity you will carry. Tell yourself, I am not a prisoner of circumstances. I am someone who offers value. I am the creator of my reality. Don't repeat these words as empty affirmations. Treat them as a commitment and confirm them with action, even if that action is small. If you've made it all the way here, it means something inside you is ready for this step. That alone proves you're not just a spectator. You're an active participant in your own transformation. To mark that commitment, I want to invite you to do something simple. Write in the comments the phrase, I offer value. This will show not only that you stayed until the end, but also that you've chosen to see yourself differently from today. On this small gesture of writing will anchor your decision. It will turn words into action and remind you that you're committed to change. Remember, as Napoleon Hill taught, whatever you think about, you become. And as Eastern wisdom says, what you practice daily becomes who you are. From now on, offer value, cultivate discipline, practice clarity. The world will always mirror the way you see yourself.